Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is December 17th, so we are like a little more than 3 weeks since Worlds, which I was supposed to post like little vlog episodes for that. I did take a lot of footage, like every day of that whole trip, or at least that whole peak week. I just kind of forgot to edit things, so I'm just gonna put them in this video as little B-rolls as I walk you guys through the world's experience, I guess. And I got my laptop over here because again, it's been 3 weeks and I can't really remember everything, so I'm just gonna run you guys through the numbers, how it went, everything like that. Okay, so we left, I believe, November 16, which is about a month ago. 17, 18, 19, whatever. During the whole peak week, I think I mentioned to you guys ahead that I was gonna increase like my carb intake to like 300 carbs and then maybe go up like 10 to 15%. That didn't really happen for some reason. Well, actually, I know the reason. It was the cold and it was the steps I did in the cold. So for most of that, the first few days of that peak week, kind of shot it up to like 400. So that's a big difference. It was pretty cold, but I was hitting around like 10,000 to 12,000 steps. Actually, it started pretty high, like 12,000 steps, and I had to pull myself back down. I think I mentioned to you guys that like in Taiwan, that was one of my issues. During peak week, I did a bit too much expenditure. So this time I tried to pull back a little bit. When I saw myself hitting like 12,000 steps for the first few days, the next few days, I kind of had to force myself to do a hard stop at like 10,000. And once I got back into the Airbnb, sometimes it would hit like 10,500, sometimes like 11,000. Anyway, the whole peak week plan for that time was just that steady increase. So again, I went through like what? Gave myself like 2 weeks actually. I gave myself 2 weeks of increasing calories from, if you guys remember, from the NBA show, which was like the end of my hard digging. After that, I increased my calories. So I went with like a very steady increase in calories and in carbs just to fill myself up gradually into the show, and I do think that worked. By the time I flew out, I felt like I was in a more decent like mental state. But physically, I could see I was still flat. Once I got to Boston, by the way, Boston is a really solid place. Super pleasant, and like it was cold, but it was like really pleasant. We got like an Airbnb in a really nice location. So walking around was fun, super scenic, and most of the things we needed were right there. It was a really good apartment. Right beside us was like a Target. And like another supermarket. So super duper complete, and basically like one of the most, I guess, convenient, is that the right way to say it? Most convenient experience in terms of competing abroad. I mean, I have competed 4 times. So there's that. Like this is probably the easiest in terms of my my whole peak week. We had like a complete kitchen and everything too. Had my own bed, so that was nice. Really nice. Really easy for the peak week. So where was I? I forgot. Yeah. Okay. So when we got there, I was increasing calories. So from the supposed 300-ish carbs went up to 400. Steps at like 12,000 or like 10,000. And that was when my body started to fill up. And then I went with that for like 3 days, and I noticed, okay, it's no longer filling up. Like my weight, for reference, I started before the flight was like 140.2. And after like 4 days at 400 carbs, it went down to like 139. I did notice I got a little bit tighter, I guess. Like the separation was getting deeper, and I was getting a little fuller. I like the look, but I kind of knew that I was gonna fall flat if I kept it that way. So for like the what is this? At 3 days out, I decided to make the increase to 500. carbs, which was, I don't usually do 500 carbs. 500 carbs is a lot. That's like a lot of bread. And most of my carbs for the whole trip was bread, because that was the most convenient and the one that I didn't have to cook, and something that I could bring around when I was walking around Boston. If there's one thing about the US that I like, it is the gluten. So anywhere you go, bread is available in lots and lots of varieties, and they're all pretty good. Some, of course, not so much. I played around quite a bit, tried like different brands and everything, so ended up just going back to the sourdough, which I like, which is much safer than most. So sourdough, 500 carbs for the 3 days out, and for the 2 days out as well. All right, so those were like really big days. The first day I noticed like a huge difference in terms of my fullness. So much better. On the second day, which was 2 days out, that was when, I don't know, that was my prep brain, my prep insecurities. I felt like I was getting a bit too full. I was like spilling, which was normal, to be honest. Like, I was expecting this to happen. Usually what I would do with myself and a lot of my clients is like, when I'm doing a load like this, when I'm doing a linear increasing load that doesn't really have like so much of an endpoint in terms of the increase, sometimes I'll try to hit a certain point of spillage that you can return from, and then the day after, which is usually like the 1 day out, I will taper down the calories coming into the show. Right, so I'll taper it down at 1 day out. The thing is, I think why I felt a bit off, like I felt extra insecure, was because my supposed 1 day out from the main show was men's physique amateur, which I kind of just wanted to do. Obviously, when you're flying out all the way to Boston from the Philippines, you want to make sure you get a little extra stage time. So I did men's physique as the frustrated men's physique athlete that I am. And I don't know if I'll ever get a pro card in men's physique, and I know I'm not necessarily like built for physique, or rather my strengths would fall under bodybuilding more, but I still did men's physique and amateur men's physique short. Like, this is so anticlimactic that I'm just feeding you guys all this info instead of showing you guys like the vloggy stuff. But alright, so when we did men's physique amateur short, I got 3rd place, which is 2 places better than I did in 2022. So that's an improvement. Although for me personally, I don't know, I did quite well, I guess, but this was not the look that I could have, should have brought to a men's physique stage. This was still me, like, after 2 days of 500 carbs. So this was like the day that when I woke up, I was spilled by intention, of course. And that day I was actually I was supposed to taper my whole like calories down, but I realized like if you're gonna go into a show, do men's physique anyways, I didn't really need to taper it down by that much at all, because I would be up for quite some time and I would be pumping up for, I don't know, I went with it like as a little bit of a warm-up, and I didn't have to taper myself down actually, because the activity itself, or at least the expenditure, would have done the same thing. So for men's physique, that was just sort of like a warm-up. Not the smartest idea if your main show was the next day, of course, but I felt like it was worth doing, because if you guys remember from the, I don't think anyone remembers, but from 2022 Worlds, like, my issue was coming into the show day itself, getting into the venue. Everything was a little bit more chaotic than I expected, mainly because, I don't know, it's easy to compete here locally because I know what to expect when I come into a venue. Most of them I've already been to, most of them I've already competed at, and I kind of know, like, okay, where am I gonna go? Who do I talk to? Who do I, like, bug about tanning? Or, registration related stuff. So I wanted to do men's physique so I could get a grasp of the backstage, which, to be honest, was actually even more chaotic than the 2022 show. It was like tight, and I cannot recall how many competitors there were exactly. I think there were most likely like 300 athletes throughout the whole weekend. It was a 2-day show, of course, but the backstage was just not like, it was not huge. For many of us, we would have had to stay like with the audience, with the spectators, until maybe like 3 or 4 classes out once the backstage was cleared. And that was the only time we could come in, get a tan, pump up and everything, change to our posing suits. That was like hella chaotic. And I am really happy that I did that men's physique show, because if I went into the main show day without knowing how that ran, I'm pretty sure like I would have been so much more stressed, scrambling, I don't know. So yeah, good call, I guess. And again, that also helped me like taper down and tighten up coming into the next day. But overall, the look for men's physique for me, I felt like I should have definitely been tighter. But yeah, that was not my main show, not my main showing, not the main physique I wanted to display anyway. But I think I did decent. I'm still waiting for the official photos. But yeah, 2 places, better than before, which is great. So the next day, main show day, I woke up that day looking, I don't know, on point, I guess. It was the sort of physique that I wanted to bring on stage for Worlds. It was much fuller. It was like the right amount of tightness, I guess. Separation was there and everything. Easy to get a pump. And yeah, we took 4th this time. So we were 13. Yeah, we were 13 in total. This was like lightweight 1, which, to be honest, I refuse to call it lightweight 1. I will still call this bantamweights. So yes, I took 4th in the pro bantamweight class, which is 1 place higher than 2022. But still, this it's still weird because like 4th place, my medal still doesn't really have a color. It's still not like a bronze medal or anything. So oh well. Just the feels from that show day. We were on stage for at least like 45 minutes. To be honest, that was probably like one of the most, I don't know if it's really true, I felt like it was one of the most stacked classes of the whole show. I hope it was. That would make me feel a bit better about my placing. So Bantamweight lasted around like 45, a little bit more than that maybe. And they ran us through like the symmetry rounds quite a lot. So I'm happy I was able to practice my posing. If you guys remember, I mentioned that after Taiwan, I would have been practicing my posing for an extra few minutes. I didn't really follow through with like the frequency of which I said I was gonna do it. But, I still tried if and when I did have the time and the energy to do it a bit more posing. And I think that did pay off. 4th place, I don't know. To be honest, it's I'm happy with it, of course. Like, this was most likely like the best physique I've displayed on stage. It's hard to tell right now because we weren't allowed to bring any like professional cameras, so I couldn't really see myself on stage or like see like HD photos of myself after the show. So even until now, like, I'm still basing it off of just photos from further away, from different angle. And to be honest, like, the lighting, not really the best. I do think compared to 2022, this time I nailed like the tanning and the glazing. I felt like I was a bit, at least like previously, I was a bit too dark. And the thing about me is like when I get glazed, the glaze like seeps in and then it goes matte real quick. So this time I asked for like extra coats like right before stepping on stage because they like glazing you before you pump up. But when I pump up, it seeps in and everything. I get all like matte and flat. So I asked for an extra top up on the glaze right before stepping on stage, and I think that did pay off. But again, it's just, I don't know, I haven't really seen myself under, you know, the lighting that I'm used to, right? But to be honest, I felt like this was the best I brought on stage ever. Do I think I could have looked better? Yes, I do. I think I solved the whole flattening out issue, right? Cold climate, just increase your calories, reduce your steps, especially reduce the steps you're doing outdoors in the open. Or if you can't do that, the steps you're doing outdoors, you have to be like really, really covered up. That's important. I think that's really important. And that's one of the things I learned, and it did pay off. But still, even then, I think for some reason, like, there's still a difference in the look. Just looking back at when or where I thought I looked best during this entire season, and this always happens to me, like every season, there's gonna be one day where it's just like, whoa, this is like a crazy, freaky look, and basically it's a fluke, and it's not something you would or could probably replicate. This was, I believe, after the Singapore show. So if you guys remember Singapore, I was digging for like 5 straight days, digging really hard, like 20,000 steps, 1,400 calories. And then after that, we had a buffet. It was 4,200 calories on 500 carbs and 100 fat. Didn't really track my sodium. But the day after, man, wow, that was, I had like a push day, and my look that time was just like, wow, couldn't believe it myself. So that was the best look I think I had during the entire prep, but that was not something I could have replicated, not given the amount of time that I had. I wasn't gonna try to go into another 5-day deep dig and then do a 4,000 calorie buffet. That was not gonna happen within that time frame, but that's something I might be exploring soon. Again, I do prefer just the linear increasing of calories with a potential taper at one day out, because it's so consistent, because it's so easy for me to make adjustments. And of course, that's someone who's as someone who's self-coached, that's makes it so much easier for myself. But later on, I'm probably gonna be, later on as in like next season, which is a while, you know, like I'm gonna give myself like an 18-month. I'm gonna talk about the whole post-show process thing eventually, but let's just say it's an 18-month off season, and on the next prep, it's gonna be in 2026. That's for sure. For that, I'm gonna be testing a bit more with the whole deplete and ginormous backload type of deal. But for now, for myself and for most of my clients, I'm still gonna be running that linear loading, just for the sake of safety, you know, just because it comes with the most predictable results. And I think I would rather be 90% solid than having the chance of going 120% or 60%, because it could fail just as much as it could succeed, and I would rather hit a more consistent, like, decent look. All right, where was I? Still on show day, 4th place. Happy with my placing. The guy who won, Zebin. Interestingly enough, I felt like that was probably like my worst possible matchup on that stage. This guy, also Asian, so I don't know if it's a genetic thing or whatever, but we had like, I don't know if he would agree to this. I feel like we had like a very similar structure. Good legs, solid taper and everything, but he came in like with much more density, much more roundness, like just much thicker, denser muscle bellies than me. And I feel like for the first time, I got like out-quadded. So yeah, probably the worst matchup, because we had like similar physiques, but he had strengths that were clearly stronger than mine. I felt like I did pose better for the physique, but those are things that can't really hide, like when you're side by side with someone who's just like bigger than you with very similar structure. It's just hard to hide. I personally prefer competing against Dirk. If you guys remember Dirk, previous world champion, he placed second this time. But I like Dirk because when I'm competing against Dirk, I feel like you can compare apples versus oranges in a sense. But with Seven, it's like an apple versus a better apple. And then you just kind of get automatically thrown down. I don't know if that's how it works or whatever, but for me, just as an athlete, it's a bit eye-opening, I guess, because I don't usually compete against people with like similar physique, similar structures. So being able to compete against someone like that was new to me. But yeah, I take it as a very, very fair loss. And then of course Dirk came in second. I think one of his best looks too. And then third, Mario. Fifth was Leo. So Leo from Canada was the guy who judged me in 2018 in Wnbf Philippines. And he was the guy who gave me my pro card, basically. So top 5 was very well represented in terms of countries, nationalities, and whatever. By the way, Worlds had like 60, I believe. I'm not sure if like every country had a representative, but there were at least like 60 countries represented. So that's one of the best parts of Worlds. Not much else to talk about. Hoping 2026, I don't want to aim for third here. I want to win, man. I really want to win. So I'm gonna take a pretty serious off season, 18 months, keep it. I know it's not that long, but I'm gonna try to make it as productive as possible. Starting 2025. We're about like a month post, so I'm already like 10-12 pounds up. I'm gonna talk about that in another video, but I am not at all unhappy. I am not dissatisfied with how that's going. 10 to 12 pounds up, fine with me. We good, we festive. Whoosh. Okay, after bantamweights, lightweights, I didn't get to watch like lightweight, the actual lightweights. They're the actual lightweights. We were bantamweights, but as I stepped down, we hit the middleweights, and yeah, man, the middleweights was a crazy lineup. Reason number, I don't know how many reasons I have of like why I want to go, like why I enjoy competing at Worlds. I just really do enjoy competing at Worlds. But another reason why I like competing at Worlds is because I like seeing craziest, the craziest, freakiest physiques, natural physiques in person, on stage. So if you haven't seen the recaps or the stories or the posts from everyone else who was on in Boston that time watching Worlds, freak show of a lineup. Like that top 3, solid. Like seeing it up close, I just stepped out of like backstage coming into the spectators area. So by the time I walked in, it was like I was right in front of the stage, so I could see it up close, and they were hitting the most muscular. I was just like, wow. Yeah, I was not gonna win an overall, even if I did win my class. So plenty of work to do, but always amazed and always so enjoyable to see the top physiques on the planet. That's why they call it Worlds. Other than that, things I really did enjoy. I forgot to talk about like check-ins, which was 2 days out. Athlete check-ins further out at the host hotel, which was like surprisingly a good distance from the actual show venue, which is weird because usually show venue, host hotel nearby. This one was like way a little bit further out. But yeah, being able to go to the check-ins and like seeing everyone there, go all fanboy mode. I kept the fanboying to a minimum during the check-ins just because I knew everyone else, not really me. I was chilling like the whole time, but like for everyone else, I could kind of see there was still a lot of tension. A lot of people were still, at least like some people were still depleting prior to their loading and everything. So it was like a bit hectic. Didn't want to disturb anyone. I was just fanboying on the inside. I waited for post-show to start like grabbing selfies with everyone. So again, another reason why I love Worlds or just international shows in general. Just being able to hang out being able to meet everyone. If you guys know, if you guys have been following me for a while, like I started doing this whole lifting shit and I've been like fanboying ever since day one. I've never thought of myself as like an up there guy. I've always felt like, you know, the guy way below, just looking up at everyone and admiring everyone, and being that type of guy coming into something as big of an event as Worlds, it just, you know, it just fills my fanboy heart. So overall, Worlds experience, amazing. Boston, first time coming there. So good. I would really love to come back. Maybe not so much like the backstage at the venue. But Boston in general, Boston as a whole, I would totally love to come back. But what else? After the show, oh, the post-show. I forgot to talk about the post-show. So post-show, interestingly enough, I guess it's because I was building up calories for like a good 2 weeks already. So by the time we finished the show, I didn't even finish like the rest of the last day of the show day. I went out with the family. Of course, thank you to them for flying in, coming with me, supporting me. So when they're hungry and I'm done with my show, of course, I'm gonna go with them. So we ate first meal. I didn't actually go wild yet. Might be because I was still full, but also just tired. And maybe just processing things. A little bit of adrenaline still going on or something. And I didn't really eat that much. And then we met up with a lot of the other guys who also just like finished the show. And we had burgers. And they were like the nasty burgers, if you know what I mean. The one I got had like mozzarella sticks and onion rings and everything. They also had freaky milkshakes, like the really big ones that had like slices of cake on top. I got a beer, and to be honest, I was like kind of hesitant ordering the burger because I felt like I didn't really need it. Wasn't that hungry. And when I got the burger, I did not know how to finish it. It took me a while to just like, I was just looking at it. How do I eat this? That was very new to me. In previous preps, I would have devoured the whole thing in one go real quick. This time, I felt much more controlled with my appetite. I don't know if it's because of the whole eating up process or if it's because of just like general maturity, being able to do this for so many seasons. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy that burger as much as I would have in the past. I did like the beer though. And after that, we went around and we went for cookies. So we went to Chip City, which to be honest, not the greatest choice, man. That was just, as far as cookies go, and they're just really not that good. And I love my cookies. I have a crazy ass sweet tooth. So that was a bit of an underwhelming post-show treat for myself, which was, I guess, okay, you know, not too bad, because if it were actually really, really good, I would have eaten like 10,000 calories maybe. Good, decent post-show meal. And like the next day, went straight to New York for 5 days. Didn't keep things quite under control, but I also didn't go wild on the eating. It just so happens that we had like a lot of reservations to restaurants with higher calorie meals. Actually, pretty much everything there was like higher calorie in general. So even if you were trying to hold back, you would have still overeaten. So 5 days in New York. Just going back to the whole Worlds experience, I love it. That was fun. To me, the only thing about this whole Worlds trip and this whole season, like in its entirety, is that I felt quite underwhelmed. Not because of my placings, not because of myself, but I felt like the process. This is a good thing, by the way. It's kind of a good thing that I'm kind of underwhelmed, that I find it a little bit uneventful, because I felt like I didn't really prep at all. It was a solid 6 months of prep, but at the same time, I felt like that 6 months just went by, and I feel like the really hard, shitty part of prep only came in at like the last month or the last 6 weeks, in which I was probably so hyper focused that it went by so fast, and then boom, Worlds show day, and then boom, we're done with prep, we're done with the season, and then I don't know. We just went straight to New York and ate, and I just didn't feel like I just didn't feel like I had like such a long season until I realized like, oh, it's been 6 months. That's about it. Really I guess this time I commend myself. That's kind of weird, but yes, I would like to commend myself for going through this prep with much less hiccups, I guess. The fact that there's no notable mistakes on my end. I guess like the process was much better. Of course, there's a lot more things I could improve on, which I will be discussing later on. But for now, I'm just, satisfied. Overall, just grateful for everyone who came out to help me throughout the entire prep, which also I have to give that little shout out, by the way. So obviously to my family, they did fly with me to all these shows, and they did give me a lot more space this time with my prep. In the past, it was like, hey, you want to come eat? You want to come eat? You want to join us for this birthday, for this event? This time they would understand when I'd say, sorry, I'm on prep. And they gave me enough space, which made it so much easier for me. And then, of course, to my friends who also did the same. Like everyone, I feel like everyone just like, they know when I'm on prep, I'll still hang out with them and I'll still be kind of chill. But they know I won't hang out for long, and they know not to, overextend on the food invites and stuff. So to them as well, and for being obviously so understanding. To my clients, of course, because I, as a self-coached person, it sounds so bad when I say it. Like, I use them as my guinea pig sometimes. Or rather, I use them to check on the validity of the processes that I use. When I make their plans, I know I'm doing them logically anyways. But sometimes I get a bit more hesitant with applying it on myself just because of my prep brain. My whole, like, sometimes you just kind of get really I just confused, all hazy and stuff. So it's nice having clients who are both supportive and clients who are also familiar with the process that I give to them. So they also act as sort of like a second eye to me. They also check in on me sometimes, and that was great. So of course, thankful to my clients. Thankful, of course, also to Equinox for supporting me, for making this prep as simple, as seamless, as convenient as possible. And of course to Nutrition Depot for this prep. Done an amazing job just making sure I had like super trustworthy, reliable supplements with me at all times. So again, thank you to Nutrition Depot, and of course you guys for still watching this video, even though it's been how many minutes? It's been a while, guys. I've been talking for a while. So yeah, thank you guys. You've still been watching after all this time. Thank you guys. Please do leave a thumbs up if you can. If you have any more questions about Worlds, about the experience, about the season, leave them down in the comments. Share the video, and tell your friends to subscribe to the channel, alright? Peace!